Welcome to the Dental School Guide podcast, your ultimate destination for all things dentistry. I'm Dr. Tanner Townsend, your guide through the complex world of dental education. Join us as we uncover the secrets of acing dental school admissions, navigating residency programs, and exploring career opportunities. Please share and enjoy. Real quick, just wanted to make all you pre-dental students out there aware of a resource. If you've ever been worried about getting into dental school or are wanting to get into that school of your dreams, then you definitely want to check out a program called Dental School Guide. In the program, we walk you through how to save money, time, and heartache when applying to dental school. There's so much fluff out there when it comes to resources for getting into school, and we are streamlining all of that. With our comprehensive digital course, expert mentorship, and personalized application review services, you'll have everything you need to stand out to admission committees. Take advantage of this amazing resource that will help you increase your chances of getting into dental school. You'll want to check out dentalschoolguide.com. Check it out. Welcome back to the Dental School Guide podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tanner Townsend, and today we have Gabrielle with us. And Gabrielle is a D2 turning a D3 student, which is awesome, from LECOM. Gabrielle, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Well, we are so excited to have you on today. So Gabrielle is going to fill us in a little bit about life at LECOM and what that's like. But Gabrielle, first tell us a little bit of background about yourself and how you ended up at LECOM.
Yeah, so I'm one of 8. I'm from a very big Catholic Italian family. Grew up playing golf. I went to college for golf actually at UW-Madison.
Nice.
And then I went to undergrad. So weird story. Played golf at UW-Madison for a year, got injured, and then I transferred over to USF Sarasota. So I got my degree from USF St. Pete campus. I say Sarasota because I took the majority of my classes at the Sarasota campus, because I'm sure a lot of the undergrads know you use Rate My Professor, and all the professors were better over there. So I feel like I graduated from the Sarasota campus, but I actually graduated from the St. Pete campus. And then I didn't take a gap year or anything. I just went straight into dental school. And I ended up at LECOM because I am from the area. I actually only live, depending on traffic, it can be 25 or 45 minutes from school. So yeah, it was basically my first option. It was my first choice. I got into 2 other dental schools, Maryland and Midwestern Chicago, but there was just no way I was leaving the warmth. So
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
If I grew up playing golf in Florida, I don't think I'd want to leave either.
Right.
That is awesome. So
Yeah.
You applied and got into 3 different schools. LECOM was your first choice.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any other Florida schools that you applied to when you were going through the cycle?
Yeah, I applied to a lot of schools. I probably applied to 25, 30 schools for sure.
Whoa.
Yeah, I applied to a lot because my dad was just like, just apply everywhere just in case. And I was like, okay. And so I did. I got an interview at Roseman and I got waitlisted there. But other than that, that was it. I got, obviously, the interviews at Midwestern and Maryland and then got in. LECOM has this early acceptance program, which we can talk about later whenever you want. But I didn't actually do the EAP just because at first I wanted to go to medical school, and then I ended up obviously in dentistry. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing you ended up in dentistry. So let's jump in and let's talk a little bit about LECOM, and then we'll kind of circle back around and we'll talk about the admissions process and all that good stuff for the different places you interviewed at.
Yeah.
So what are some things that make LECOM very unique as opposed to other dental schools?
Yeah. So LECOM does a full PBL type style, so it's very much so group learning. Our entire years at LECOM, we are actually learning in groups. So instead of taking a biochemistry course, a physio course, a dental management, all these different courses, we actually just have them all in one. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we go to PBL for 2 hours, and it's called problem-based learning. Basically, it's interactive learning. We have a case study, so we'll be presented with, Joe comes in with hypertension, shortness of breath, and chest pain. And you'd think it's a heart attack, but actually it ends up being something else. So you have to just work through it. So you're just presented. So you start with the chief complaint, and then you'll present the history, and then you'll move on to CCs and everything. So it's you're kind of just figuring out what the patient has, and throughout that process, they'll throw in like different drugs and different like signs and symptoms of what it is. So throughout that process, you're working with your classmates and reading the textbook, trying to figure out what this patient has. And then what we do is that we're given 19 to 22 chapters assigned, and we have to self-read, which sucks, but it just is what it is. But we have to like self-teach ourselves all these chapters, and within those chapters typically are the diagnoses that we end up having in our cases. So that's very unique about LECOM. And then the other thing is that we're vertically integrated super early. Like I have my first hygiene patient my second semester, first year of school. So you're in the clinic very early, which is very motivating. It's hard because we don't get a summer. We only have 1 week for summer. But at the same time, like you're going to graduate with a lot of experience compared to other schools. So that's super unique about LECOM. And that's definitely something I would bring up in the interview process. If you have it, just talk about the fact that it's so cool that we're vertically integrated, because they obviously love that. So yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Let's unpack a little bit of that some more. So the problem-based learning, so it doesn't sound like it's as much formal class.
No, it's not. Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
In terms of like test taking and stuff like that, so it's more group test taking, is that correct?
No, so this is another downfall, but not that big of a deal. We have our exams at 9:00 on Saturday for PBL.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, but the nice thing is, so we have so much free time. Like I remember D1 year, I like didn't know what to do with myself, because we only have, with all those classes, they're all in one. So you only have it 3 days a week for 2 hours. And then other than that, you're given your other schedule. So it allows for a lot of free time during the week. And like, you just have to make sure you're on top of studying. Like a lot of people will cram, and it works for some people, but I have to make sure I'm like doing a chapter a day just to make sure I'm staying on top of it, because I'm not a person who can cram. So yeah.
Wow. So with that problem-based learning, is your guys' school a graded system, or is it a pass-fail system?
No, we have class rank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, I was wondering how that would work with problem-based learning, since you're kind of getting a group grade in a sense.
Yeah.
But that makes sense.
Well, it's not group graded. It's all individually graded. We just work together to figure out the case. So like the PBL exam is all on your own. A fast form is like your participation in the class, and that's all on your own. And then basically we work through everything together, because their whole LECOM's like prides himself on group practice. Like we want to be involved with medicine, we want to be involved with pharmacy and all that stuff. So this really helps us learn how to work with other physicians and doctors and things like that.
Okay, so like more interdisciplinary learning.
Yes.
So that's very cool.
Yeah.
So in terms of, you had mentioned that you guys get in the clinic really early, how you had your first hygiene student your second semester. Have you been able to do more restorative and things like that already in the clinic as well?
So this year we started doing that. So we have not drilled on a patient yet, just because we wait to do that till third year. But what we do this year, so every Tuesday, Thursday, we would be vertically integrated into clinic. So we would basically assist a D3, and they would let us give like all the anesthesia. So I would be giving, like yesterday I did an IN, and they were doing a prep on number 30, but I gave the local. So things like that. And then like the D3 would do the prep, and then I would do the restoration. So it's kind of just like back and forth of what we can do and what we can't, but it all just depends on like, we weren't allowed to give local obviously until we had our rotation. So yeah, it's pretty much, we're kind of doing most of it, but except the drilling part.
except the drilling portion of it.
Yeah.
Very cool. So once you get into clinic, your third year and fourth year, let's talk about that, and we'll kind of circle back around to those first couple of years, because we're kind of going this direction. LECOM is one of those unique schools that has a couple different locations for their clinical years. So let's talk about that. What is so unique about LECOM in that aspect?
Yeah, so basically what we do is at 3 years, for the first 3 years, you're in the Bradenton campus. And then the last year you can pick Defuniak Springs, Erie, Pennsylvania, and then in the next 2 years it's actually going to be you can stay in Bradenton, which I'm so jealous about. But they're expanding the class size. So we're at 100 right now. They're making it 150. So that's going to be an option for those students as well.
Wow. So just during your 4th year, you go out and is it like a school kind of setting when you go?
It's just a clinic. Okay. So we're just seeing patients. So you can pick, you're going to be working from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. or 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. And so within that time frame, you just see as many patients as you can see. And then you're off either off in the morning or either off in the afternoon.
Gotcha. And your 3rd year, how does that work? Are you in the clinic every single day or are you?
We're in the clinic Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. And we're only allowed to see one patient in the morning and one patient at night.
One patient in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's really cool. It's kind of a unique experience in that regard. Now, during that 4th year, a lot of different schools will have what they call like external rotations where you'll be able to go out in the community, whether it's a public health clinic or a different local community clinic. Do you guys offer that during that year as well?
We do. Yeah. So we have a lot of rotations 3rd year. I know we do cleft lip and palate. We do an oral surgery rotation. We do and like it's not an Aspen Dental, but it's like an Aspen Dental rotation, and a few other ones. And then 4th year, they give you 7 days, I think. Like if you're interested in specializing, they give you 7 days to go up and see the residency you're thinking about, go shadow them and everything. So they allow for that time.
Well, that's great that they let you do that and like have the time to go see those specialties.
Yeah.
Are there specialty residencies at your guys' school or is it all just out in the community and other places?
Yeah. We don't have anything yet. No.
Well, that's great. That's a good problem to have because then you guys get to do more in the clinic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is a very good problem to have.
Yes.
Well, going back to like your 1st year, walk us through what you had mentioned and alluded to it already. What is life like as a D1? What if someone goes to LECOM, what should they be able to expect as a 1st-year dental student?
Yeah, so of course 1st year is always hectic because it's just like you have no idea what you're getting thrown into. But basically 1st year so we have A and B group. So they split us up into group A and group B. So we're on the exact opposite schedule. So if I go to class at 9, group B or group A is going to class at 1, but it's the same class. So basically for me, I was group B. So I had PBL at 9 and then I had sim lab at 1 o'clock. We have sim lab twice a week. We have PBL 3 times a week. So on the days, so we would have PBL Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we'd be done at 12. Like you have nothing to do after 12. And then Tuesday, Thursday, we had I believe nothing until sim lab. So I had nothing until 1 o'clock. So lots of time to study. Wow. But at that point in time, you're like stressing out about everything. And the classes are so different that you're using all that free time to study. So it's still pretty overwhelming 1st year, but it's definitely doable. But it's just like a lot of free time, but you feel like you don't have a lot because you have to study so much.
No, that's very fair. I think they do that on purpose just to make sure that students don't feel overwhelmed. In a lot of aspects because it is a big change and a big jump from undergrad.
Yeah.
So during your 1st year in the sim lab, are you guys able to cut teeth? Is it just a waxing course that you guys are doing in sim lab?
So we do, the first class that you're going to take is dental anatomy. So your first practical is like tooth ID and then a wax up. And then the second class is complete dentures. So again, you're kind of just working with wax, setting teeth. And then spring semester, the first class of spring semester is operative. So that's when we start to drill.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, as that transition goes into D2 year, it always ramps up pretty much at every school across the board where the D2 year feels like you're drinking from a fire hydrant.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah. What does it look like at LECOM as a D2?
I don't know if I want to talk about that.
We got a little PTSD from D2 year.
D2 fall is tough. It always is. Like you're always going to hear that as a dental student. It's just a lot of class loads. Like you're taking almost 30 credits, especially in our school with the PBL and everything. It feels like you're taking so many credits. But really it's just head down, focus, lots of studying. You just have to get through it. Like you're going to get through it, but it's hard because we're in clinic Tuesday, Thursday still. And then you have all your classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We've got a whole bunch of 7 a.m.s. So it's just a grind, but it goes by so fast. And then the spring is like so easy. D2 spring is just like so relaxed. I don't think, like next week, I don't have class after like 12 o'clock every day. So it's
That's
nice.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So really just D2
Oh.
spring, you just got to grind, or D2 fall, you got to just grind through it and then you're good after that.
Yeah, just come up for air once a week for an hour and then go back
Yes.
under.
Yes.
That is, oh man, I did not like D2 year.
Yeah.
D2 year is just one of those things where you're just like, let's forget that.
Yes.
Well, what is something that you feel like the school is working on to improve, to make better for future students coming down the road for future classes?
Definitely hiring more faculty, which I think is great. So the ratio of students to faculty is going to get better. They just expanded the sim lab. It's beautiful now. They're getting all new mannequins. So for anyone who's coming soon, they're going to have like all new mannequins and a pretty sim lab and everything. We are getting a ortho internship, which might turn into a residency. We're not really sure yet. So that's expanding, which is really great. And then other than that, those are like the big things that are happening in school right now.
Very cool. And in terms of the sim lab, every school handles their sim lab differently. In terms of like if you have to pay for extra teeth, like they might give you like 5 or 6 teeth that you have to pay for extra teeth. Ah, shucks. That's a bummer.
I know. We had to pay for
I hate
everything.
that.
All of our kits and everything's paid for. But LECOM is on the lower tuition end, especially because it's a private school, so it is on the lower end still of tuition. But you kind of get hit back with the the kits
with having to go buy teeth and burrs and all that jazz. Oh,
yeah.
We had that at our school, and it drove me nuts. I was like,
So
man,
annoying.
I'm spending like $1,000 extra dollars a year on teeth.
I know. It's tough.
It's stinking ridiculous. All right. Well, that's kind of it about the school. Is there anything else before we kind of jump into life in Bradenton area that you want to discuss about LECOM in particular that you feel like you wish you would have known before you went to school there?
I think the biggest thing is just like make friends with the upperclassmen. I feel like I didn't do that until D2 or D1 spring, and it helps so much because there's just like so many resources that they can help you with. And they already went through it. So I think in any dental school you're at, just make friends with the upperclassmen because it'll definitely help you. And we do at LECOM, we do a big system. So if you get in, you have the option to have a big. I would definitely say yes to that. Which is a big is just like a year above you, and then they're just kind of your person to like ask questions about, see if they can help you in classes, things like that. So
that is great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in terms of life in Bradenton, Florida, tell us, what is it like as a dental student living in Bradenton, Florida? And how is it in terms of like social things to do when you get out and get out of school?
Yeah, I mean, I love it here. So I'm kind of biased because I'm from here. Personally, I feel like, so the area of LECOM itself, we're in Lakewood Branch, which is kind of like it's a very new upcoming community of young families and like geriatric. So it's definitely not like you gotta drive for like, if you want nightlife, you have to drive 30 minutes to St. Pete or Sarasota, which really isn't that bad. Like you just get a group of friends and you guys can all go down there together. In regards to, there's a lot of golf in the area. There's so many places to eat. There's like a new place to eat. Like you could probably eat at a different place every night if you wanted to here, which is amazing. Probably 25-ish minutes away from school. There's lots of living by the school, lots of apartments. You're not going to have an issue with that. Let's see what else. Only an hour from Busch Gardens, which is a theme park, and 2 hours from Universal and Disney and all those things, which is nice because, I mean, people go up there for a day and then come back. And let's see, what else? Yeah, I mean, the weather's just always nice. You don't need to buy a parka or anything like that. So I love it here. I'm going to practice here, so I like it.
That is very cool. So you had mentioned living. There's a lot of housing right by the school.
Yeah, like if I have class at 9, I'm like leaving at 8.
Oh my gosh, that is like awesome. That is so nice.
Yeah. So it's great.
So in terms of like average rent cost, what does that typically run for like let's say a 1-bedroom, 1-bath?
So I'm living by myself right now in a 1-bedroom and I'm paying like $20. It's definitely more expensive, but I'm living in, there's cheaper places that you could live in that are actually nicer. Like I kind of didn't look hard enough, I don't think, but you could live in, I know some of my friends have a 2-bed, 2-bath and they're paying the same thing. So it's definitely like affordable. You can find different apartments that are cute and nice and aren't going to break the bank here. And you could also have a roommate, and that would obviously help with the price.
Gotcha. Now, are you able to walk to school, or is there like parking that is designated for students like at the
There
school just
is
down the road?
lots of parking at the school. You're not going to have an issue. If you live at, there's a few apartments like Creekside and Creekwood. Those are a few names. They are like literally a block away. So if you want, like, I have some friends that bike to school. Some people, I know the lunch lady, I always see her walking to school. So you can definitely walk, but it's more of, it's not really like, it's walk friendly. There's a sidewalk, but it's also kind of, if you have a car, you're probably going to drive to school.
Uh-huh. Do they charge for
No,
parking at that
no,
parking lot?
no.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, no. So
Yeah, our school charged for parking, and it was outrageous. Like
yeah.
I'd park like a mile away because I didn't want to pay it.
No,
It was
we're
like,
not in a city at all. Like, it's not like that. So
that is very cool. So you had mentioned the lunch lady. Is there like a cafeteria at the school?
yeah, there is a cafe
What?
at the school. Yeah, but I don't eat there much, but it's nice because we have like, we just got these little vending machines, and it's all like healthy food, protein shakes, protein
nice.
bars, like, so it's Celsius's and everything. So that's really nice. I like, hopefully no one from school sees this, but like the lunch food, not the best, but it's an option. So if you do live far, I'm actually moving back to my parents' house on Monday. So I will probably stay at school. So for me, that's an option now, which is nice.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's always open. It opens at, I think, 8 and then closes at like 3:30. So it's nice.
Are there other food options? Like you said, didn't taste necessarily the best. Are there other food options like in the area?
Oh my
like
God,
if you were
so
to leave
many.
the school?
Yeah, so many.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know that there's like other
Yes,
options
there's
like
a lot.
right around there because it's like
I'm staring at a Three Natives, a Pacific Counter, a Subway. Like, there's so many. Yeah.
There, you got tons of options then. That's great. All right. Well, in terms of what else is there to do, you said there's the nightlife about 30 minutes away. What are some things that like just students kind of gather together to do there for fun?
Lots of beach time, pickleball. We got pickleball courts pretty close.
Nice.
I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of us love to go get martinis. A lot of us love to go to dinner. I'm like a gym person, so a lot of us, like, I always go to the gym with my friends.
Do you guys have a gym on campus? I know some dental schools have. No, you don't.
No.
Okay. So it's all just private gyms or apartment gyms. Okay.
Yeah. Walks. We like to take walks. Skate. We skate a lot. So a lot of outdoor stuff. If you like the outdoors, a lot of dinners, a lot of drinks if you want to. So just a lot of social interactions. We do have like some social events and stuff, but I feel like a lot of it is, it's nice in the beginning, but then when you find your like group of friends, you kind of stop going and you kind of just go with your friends. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of just gravitate towards the people you hang out with on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, in terms of LECOM, do they have certain things like you had mentioned, like clubs and like events, or like ASDA, I'm assuming. Is that a pretty big part of the school, or is it like you said, most people just hang out with their friends and they're not involved as much with that?
I think it's probably sitting in the middle. Like, we have ASDA, and the people who are in ASDA always go on all the trips and the conferences and things like that. In regards to school events, like, if we had, because I'm on SGA, and SGA had like a welcome week and a wellness week, and we did something every single day, and like not too many people showed. So it's more of like, if there's a conference or if there's like something going on, like a super sealant Saturday or something like that, a lot of people go. But just like the basic, ice cream in the cafe, like it's not very packed.
Gotcha. Very cool. In terms of, let's jump into admissions. Let's talk about admissions, and like you had mentioned, like the early admittance stuff. So let's kind of talk about that really fast, of what LECOM has to offer in terms of that early admission thing that you mentioned.
Yeah, so basically it's just a program that I believe, I didn't do it, so I don't know too much about it. I think you sign up for it in high school or undergrad. Like, look into it early. If you're a freshman going into college, I would look into it now. Just Google LECOM Dental or LECOM Osteopathic Medicine Early Acceptance Program. It'll come up. You just fill out the form. If they like it, they're going to call you in for an interview. If you interview, they like you, you get in. you have a spot. As long as you get, it's I think an 18 or higher on your DAT and keep your GPA above a 3.5, like you're good, you're getting in.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow, that's really cool. So that can be anywhere in the country. It doesn't
anywhere,
have to
yeah.
just be in Florida.
You can be
Wow.
any.
So that's really cool to know. Not a lot of schools have a
No,
program
yeah,
like that.
yeah, it's nice.
I honestly don't think I've heard of a single one that
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
Now, some schools have something called like a D.5 program where they'll admit students kind of on a temporary basis where like they didn't make it into the D1 class, but they had a pretty good application.
Mm-hmm.
So they're taking some of the classes with the D1s.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they perform well, they'll move into the next D1 class. Does LECOM have anything like that?
We have a master's program, but it's not a guarantee. It's a guaranteed interview, but it's not a guaranteed acceptance.
Okay. And is it a 1 year or 2 year
1 year.
master's program?
1 year.
Very cool. In terms of your admission experience, walk us through kind of your admission experience from like when you applied
Mm-hmm.
and some of the stressors that you had along the way as you were applying.
The acceptance process just sucks. Like the application
it
is
does.
so awful. Like I don't think I've ever done anything harder. Now looking back on it, I'm like, school is way easier than that application was. I mean, just the process of like studying for the DAT, trying to make sure my application looks good. I think for me, what stood out was obviously the athlete thing. My personal statement was actually about my injury. I did think about going on tour for a little bit. So I wrote about how like the injury changed my life, and like I went from chasing one dream of like golf to turning around and like chasing another dream, putting all my marbles into dentistry. So that just like trying to figure out how to word that and bring it all together and like do something other than my dad's a dentist, which he is, but like other than doing something like that, which is like the classic. The supplemental essays were awful. I think like honestly, every school that had a supplemental essay I didn't get into because I just didn't do a good job with them because I was just over it at that point. And then let's see. I got an interview pretty soon. I think it was like the first or second week of interviews I got one. I did an interview on Zoom. I didn't do any in-person interviews. The interview at LECOM is really interesting. It's like PBL, like you're interviewing with 8 other people at the same time.
Oh.
So the interviewer will ask a question, and then it'll be like, who wants to answer? And you'll like raise your hand, and then you'll answer, and then the next person will answer, and it's weird because it's like, oh, well, she just said that. Like, I can't say that anymore. So I think my best advice for that is like go first as much as you can, but like don't overpower people. Like if you're getting asked like 12 questions, go first like 8 times, and then the other 4 times like kind of just relax. Don't overpower anyone because they want to see you can work with the team and everything like that. And then after my interview, I did write thank you cards, and then I got accepted on acceptance day to LECOM in Maryland, and then Midwestern, I got accepted like pretty later. They called me. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that group interview experience, was it like intense questions or was it like situational, like, hey, someone comes in with this, what would you do kind of thing?
Both.
Or what were
It was both. Yeah.
Okay.
I think obviously I got the why dentistry, why LECOM. I got if you catch your roommate like with an exam, what would you do? I got what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses? Trying to think. I'm like, this is the good tea for the interviewers. What else did I get? Why LECOM? Obviously. Yeah, I think just be ready, like what can you do? What do you see like that could be better about the dental field? I talked about like having dental insurance and companies and stuff. So yeah, it was a mix. It was a good mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that does make it challenging though when you're answering the same question with like multiple other people because you're like, man, that was a good answer.
Yeah,
like I was gonna say that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's why I'm like, just go first. I know it's nerve-wracking, but just go first.
That is a great strategy to have, I think, because it's just so, it's really just overwhelming to be like, oh my goodness, like that was what I was going to say. That was my backup thing.
Right.
So in terms of your interview with LECOM, what was the rest of the interview like? Were you able to talk with current students
we
while
did.
you were there?
The very end of the interview, you talk to like 6 different students and you got to ask them any questions. There was no interviewer on that call. So like no one knew what you were asking or anything like that. So you did have the opportunity.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And did they go over like financial stuff as well of kind of what to expect?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They went over like all the tuition, what like expected cost of living is going to be, and like how much of loans you can take out and everything like that.
Okay. So you had options to pick between Chicago, Maryland, and LECOM. Obviously, you chose LECOM in part because you're from the area. But in comparing the other schools that you got into, why did you pick LECOM over the other two?
The weather, to be honest with you. I did tour. My dad went to Maryland Dental, and I toured it kind of out of respect for him, knowing I wasn't going to go. But my sister lived up there at the time, so I was like, whatever, we can just go tour it. No shame to Baltimore, but it seemed very unsafe.
Baltimore's a kind of a sketchy city.
Yeah, and it just like, I didn't want to have to walk around having some pepper spray in my pocket, like being on edge all the time. So that was kind of a huge thing for me. And then I spent that winter life in Wisconsin, and I just don't want to do that again. I don't want to go through I didn't want to have to go through having that like cold experience again. So I didn't even go tour Chicago. I would have gone if it was the only place I got in. The people were so nice, and like they have a cadaver lab. It's a great school for sure. I just didn't want to be in the cold if I didn't have to.
No. So currently I live in Montana, and it's not as cold as you think, but it is very cold.
Yes.
So, when it gets down to negative 20 and the wind is blowing, you're like,
I know. Yeah,
let's,
so tough.
Let's move to Florida.
It's so tough.
So it's like, I need a golf course right now. We're out golfing and it's like 50 degrees. We're like, man, it's like summer out here. All right. Well, as we're kind of wrapping up here, tell us any final advice that you'd have for students that are applying either to LECOM or just in general.
Mm-hmm. Just don't stress yourself out. I know it's so hard to say because like I'm in now, but everything always works out. Like look back in your life and think about all the things you got yourself so twisted over, and everything worked out. And I think I've had that mentality. Like D1 year, I got myself so stressed out. I was like literally on Reddit being like, what does it take to get kicked out of school? Because I remember anatomy really just killed me. Like I ended up getting a B. And I think we had all these quizzes. I got like a 50 on my first quiz. And I was like, oh my God. And everything is going to be fine. Like, you will go through the application process. And if you don't get in, I'm a firm believer in like, if you really want something, you will get it as long as you put in the work and you just keep trying. And you just if you don't get in the first route, if you don't get in the first time, the first cycle, thank you. Go to do a master's, go work in a dental office, do something that's going to set you apart from people, and you'll get it eventually. I know we've got a 35-year-old hygienist in our school, and she's like thriving right now. She's probably like number 10 in the class. So if you want something, you will get it, and just take a deep breath. Everything's going to be okay. You're going to get through it, and just like think about all the things you've already accomplished and take that and remember, like, what would you have said to yourself now back then?
That is some excellent advice. I think that is, like you had said, that's advice for when you're in school too. I remember
it is.
Like
for sure.
when you fail a practical, like I remember I failed a practical once for dropping the box a little too far on a class 2, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is over. Like my career is over.
So stupid. Yeah. I remember this past semester in fixed pros, I was on my bridge prep looking like this, got a solid, I think I got like a 68, and I was like, and then I still ended up getting an A in the class. Like, it's fine. Yeah. It'll be fine.
Yeah. And I think we just overanalyze it, and we just need to just calm down, take a deep breath, and it'll all be fine.
Yes, for sure.
So, well, Gabrielle, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Of course. And whoever's listening to this, if you want to DM me, I'll answer any questions you have for sure about anything. So I'm always open to answering questions as much as I can. So, but thank you so much for having me on. I'm always happy to help the future generation of dentists for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much once again. And if you want to reach out to Gabrielle, feel free to find her on Instagram. And what's your Instagram again, so everyone can find you
It's Teeth by Tomio, and it has an underscore after it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is it for today's episode of the Dental School Guide podcast, and we will talk to you later.
Thank you.
That's all for today's episode of the Dental School Guide podcast. We hope you've gained valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your journey into dentistry. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more expert advice, inside tips, and engaging discussions. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. It would mean the world to us. Until next time, keep smiling, keep striving, and remember, your dental dreams are closer than you think. Thanks for tuning in to the Dental School Guide podcast.